are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's Job Seeker Call. Our topic today is how do you successfully work with recruiters? Recruiters can often give you access to jobs that are not advertised, and so it's important to know how to properly interact with corporate as well as third-party recruiters. During this webinar, we're going to address four main areas. Number one, the various types of recruiters, how to position yourself so recruiters will track you down, realistic expectations, and how do you improve your chances of obtaining results when you are working with a recruiter. During your job search, you may encounter third-party recruiters as well as corporate recruiters. These individuals understand the needs of their clients and are very effective at making appropriate matches. Now let's talk about the various types of recruiters, because there are four major segments of third-party recruiters as well as corporate recruiters: direct placement, temporary staffing, contract placement, retained search, and corporate recruiters. And I'm going to go into each one of these so you have an understanding of what they do. Direct placement, these are individuals that find talent for full-time jobs. They're only paid when they make a successful match and the candidate that they represent is hired. Their clients pay a fee to these recruiters for their ability to find top talent that they can't find on their own. As a result, these clients are looking for experience, skills, and stability. If you do not have the exact experience, skills, or stability their clients mandate, they will not be able to place you in a job. Since they are only paid on providing results, it is in their best interest to place as many candidates as possible in jobs, and most recruiters are very specialized. They only place in a certain discipline or a certain profession or a certain niche. Temporary staffing. When you work for a temporary staffing firm, you're actually the employee of the staffing company who pays your salary and benefits. The staffing company then bills their client on an hourly basis for your services. These temporary assignments can last anywhere from one day to months of employment. Many employers like to try before they buy, and often these temporary positions turn into full-time opportunities. This type of position is also a working interview and gives you an opportunity to experience the working environment before you accept a full-time job. I've been told by many job seekers that they interviewed with a company, they were all excited about the opportunity, then they got the job and started working there, and the job didn't even resemble what they thought it was. Contract placement recruiters. The difference between a temporary staffing firm and a contract staffing firm is the level of position and the duration of assignment. Most contract positions are at a higher level and last several months or even years. Contractors are also the employee of the contract staffing firm, and again, many of these contracts lead to full-time job opportunities. Retained search. These are firms that are basically paid up front to find talent. When a firm pays a retainer up front, they expect to attract the top 5% of talent available in their profession, and often they will not interview someone who is not working. In many instances, they want to hire somebody out of one of their competitors. And, it's not ethical for them to do that, but they can hire a retained search firm to do that for them. Corporate recruiters, you're going to run into more corporate recruiters than anything else, and they work for a specific company and often are working on multiple positions. They're judged on their ability to match talent with the needs of the different hiring authorities that work for their company, as well as find people who will fit into their company culture. Corporate recruiters interview multiple candidates daily, and you can be lost in the shuffle if you don't stand out. If you are answering a website posting for a specific company, they often utilize automated systems which screen out resumes that do not contain keywords for specific positions. The hiring authorities in their company want to hire the best person for their job, and the corporate recruiters are judged on their ability to identify, place, and retain the highest level of talent. So they're not only judged on their ability to identify talent, they're judged on how many people are interviewed before somebody's actually hired, and out of all the people that are hired, how many people are retained. and still on their job 1 and 2 years later. That's how they're judged. Now, how do you position yourself so recruiters track you down? Because remember, recruiters are not paid unless they're placing people in jobs. And so sometimes you feel like you're just a number or they're not contacting you. But understand something, if they're not placing people in jobs, they're not getting paid. And so it's in their best interest. So the best way to be represented by a recruiter is to position yourself so they actually track you down. Recruiters are expected to find talent that the hiring authorities can't attract themselves by using website posting or job board postings. So they want to find candidates that are not necessarily answering job board postings or website postings. As a result, recruiters use many resources to identify top talent, and these are some of them. They make networking calls to talented people who are working to obtain referrals. That's why it's so important that everybody in your network knows you're looking for a job and knows what type of job you're looking for, because if somebody working gets a call, hopefully they're presenting your credentials. They talk to coworkers or supervisors of people that they've placed in the past in jobs. They look for members of professional associations. A recruiter believes that if somebody is a member of their professional association, that they're above average. Because normally when people are first starting out, they're trying to make a name for themselves. They're not necessarily joining their professional associations. Many recruiters get the directories and call people that belong to professional associations of a particular profession or industry. Individuals with a strong social media profile in their niche or area of expertise. Now, you notice I didn't say that they have a lot of followers on Facebook or they have a lot of connections on LinkedIn. What I said is they have a strong social media profile in their niche or area of expertise. They look for people that are publishing blogs, like individuals who write blogs or publish articles online or in trade publications. Individuals that are mentioned in trade publications, somebody with a strong internet presence, often the result of a Boolean search. Outplacement firms who can provide talent. Outplacement firms are judged on their ability not only to prepare people to get back into the employment, back into work, but they're also judged on how many people go through their outplacement program that are then placed in jobs. So often outplacement firms work with recruiters to try to find people jobs. Alumni associations, you may think that a school is not a good place to go when you're looking for a job and that people only contact schools for recent grads, and that's not the truth at all. Many employers, many recruiters contact schools, high schools, colleges, trade schools, and talk to the alumni associations. So they're not necessarily talking to the placement offices, but they're talking to the alumni associations to see if any experienced alumni are looking for employment. Career centers from educational institutions, whether it's a placement office, a career center, often again, the alumni will go back, when they have experience. There are also many specialized recruiting tools which search for a strong presence on the internet. That is why it's critical to set up an individual website, a resume or CV filled with keywords, and do all you can to make your credentials easy to search. You want to pop up when people are doing searches. You want to have a very professional presence online. And let's talk about realistic expectations right now when you're working with recruiters. Before contacting a third-party recruiter, you need to do your research. Most staffing and recruiting firms specialize either in a special profession, an industry, or a niche. If you send your resume or CV to a firm that does not specialize in what you do, you're wasting your time. You're never going to hear from them. They're never going to do anything for you because they don't place in the area that you specialize in. Now that you understand the staffing and recruiting profession, you will have a better understanding of what they can and can't help you accomplish in your job search. This also stresses the importance of utilizing many resources while you are conducting a job search. Having your resume or CV in the hands of a recruiter is only one resource, which should not represent, again, more than 10% of your efforts. Many job seekers complain about not being called back. These recruiters interview multiple candidates daily and will call when and if they have an appropriate match for you. If they called all the individuals they are representing weekly, there would be no time to market your skills and match your credentials to specific opportunities. So the only time you're going to hear back is if they have a match. Ask the recruiters you contact if they feel they can help you in your search. They will be straight with you and can often provide other resources if they cannot personally represent your search. Now, how do you improve your chances of obtaining the best results when you're interacting with recruiters, whether they're corporate recruiters or third-party recruiters? Conducting the research before reaching out to a recruiter will provide you with the best results. Knowing the different segments of the third-party recruiters and the main focus of corporate recruiters help you position yourself as the person who will make them look good. Remember, their reputation is on the line. If they pass your resume along to a hiring authority or they set up an interview for you and the interviewer says, this person does not have what I'm looking for, it's a negative reflection on the recruiter, and then they lose their rapport and trust with the hiring authorities. That's why they screen so hard, because you're either going to make them look good or make them look bad. There's nothing in between. So only apply with third-party recruiters who specialize in your field of interest. Follow the guidelines and instructions that are shared by corporate recruiters. They all have a process you have to follow. Clarify expectations up front so a proper follow-up process can be implemented. When is the best time I should follow up? What is the appropriate time for me to call you back? What is the next step in the hiring process? You have to ask those questions during every conversation. Only apply for jobs where you possess the qualifications requested. If they're asking for specific skill sets, and especially if they're advertising a job, chances are they're getting many people that have those skill sets, and they're not going to consider somebody who doesn't. Identify where they are in the hiring process and a target date to hire. So often you might get in early. Somebody's just starting the interviewing process, and say they started today, and they're not planning to hire for 60 or 90 days. They're just starting their hiring process now. They're doing some preliminary interviews. It is very easy to get forgotten, because they might work on a few other things, then they're interviewing candidates, and often it's those candidates that get in the last 30 days that are remembered. So you want to know where they are in the hiring process and what is their target date to fill. And the reason you want to know this is that helps you know when to follow up, how to follow up. In real estate, the most important thing is location. In a job search, the most important thing is timing. It can't be around your timing, unfortunately. It's around the timing and the budgets of the people that you're presenting your credentials to. You want to follow up, but you want to refrain from daily update calls. You don't want to call and get a status report. If you're calling to follow up, you have to leave a message that shows the person what's in it for them to call you back. If you say, I'm just calling to check the status of the job, I'm just calling to see where you are in the interviewing process, I'm just calling to see, that's all about you. But if you call and say, I had applied for your position of blah, 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 I've got some additional information I feel would be valuable for me to share with you. And then you provide an additional reference check. You give them something else that's going to be of value to them to keep yourself in front of them. And use all means of communication to follow up. Don't only follow up with phone calls. Use email. If you've got a cell phone, you can use texting, but don't abuse it. Snail mail, a card in the mail, a follow-up contact in the mail. You would be amazed at how effective that is, because people aren't getting mail anymore. It's all email. It's all texting. And so you're really showing you put an extra effort forward if you send something by snail mail. You want to really differentiate yourself. You've got to be memorable. What did you do or say? Did you connect with a common denominator with this interviewer? Did you let the interviewer talk about themselves so they liked you better? See, people like you better when you let them talk about themselves. Think about the last social event you were at. And if you ever run into somebody you haven't seen in a long time, and if they took the word I out of their sentence, they wouldn't be able to talk. I'm doing this, we're doing that, we've done this, I've done this, and it's all me, I. Okay? You have a much different feeling from that person as opposed to somebody who says, it's been so long since I've seen you, what have you been doing? Tell me what's been exciting in your life, what's coming up in the near future. If you let somebody talk about themselves, they like you better, and that holds true for interviewers. Why are they working for the company? Why do they feel this is a great place to work? Let them talk about themselves. And lastly, you've got to display a high level of interest and confidence. Sometimes you think you're showing it. I'm showing I'm confident. I'm showing I'm interested. No, you not only have to show it by your body language and the answers to questions, you have got to use the words, I am very interested in working for your company and confident I can do the job. If they ask you, why are you interested in this job? It's because I'm very confident in my abilities to do the job, and I'm extremely interested in working for your company, and let me tell you why. And then you share some things you learned about the company when you did your research. You have got to voice those words. You've got to voice your high level of interest and your high level of confidence in your ability to do the job. Never assume for 2 seconds that your demeanor or that the way you answered questions is showing that you have a high level of interest and confidence. You've got to use those words, whether it's a telephone interview or a face-to-face interview. And by the way, when you're working with recruiters, they've got to know that you're confident and have a high level of interest because, again, if they pass you on to a hiring authority, they're going to be judged on how you interview and the interest level that you show. You don't want to waste the time of a hiring authority. And so when you tell a recruiter, I'm very interested in this company, I'm very interested in this job, let me explain why. I'm extremely confident I could do the job. They're going to be much more likely to put you on, to pass you on. Even if you don't have as strong of credentials as somebody else, if you show a higher level of interest and confidence, they'll put you through over somebody else that has stronger experience because they feel you're going to make them look good. Remember, recruiters are judged on their ability to make the best match for the opportunities they represent. They have to envision you as that person. They've got to see you in the job. An interview is not a fact-finding mission. Conversations are not your time to ask them 20 questions. It's your time to really show them, why you're the best person for the job. You're auditioning for a part. The part is the job. If you follow the advice in this webinar, you're going to understand how to work with recruiters and you're going to be more successful. Because again, remember, they've got to fill the jobs they're representing, either with you or somebody else. They're going to pass along the person that they think is going to make them look the best. Okay, I've been asked a lot of questions about the different kinds of recruiters, and that's how we did this program, because I get all these topics from you. By the way, if any of you have a topic that you'd like me to address on any of these weekly calls, all you have to do is send your topic to support@careersupportnetwork.com. So any topics that you have, you see the email address at the bottom. This call will be posted in the library under all topics back in your career portal within 5 business days. So you're going to find it under Job Search Solutions. That's where this program will be filed. But what I want to do now is the most important part of the call, and that's answer your questions. Now, your questions can be about how to work with recruiters or any other topic that's important to you. The reason that I do these calls live is this is basically free career consulting for you. You can run any scenario by me. You can ask me any question. I'll be glad to help you. Now, you can ask questions one of 2 ways. You can click on the attendee plus sign next to the word attendee. Your name is going to show, and you're going to see a little yellow hand there. If you dialed in on a landline and you put in the dial-in number, the access code, and the PIN number, I can click on that hand and unmute your lines, and you and I can role play. If you'd rather type in a question, you can go to the bottom of the screen, and you see the word questions, and next to the word questions, there's a plus sign. And just click on that. It opens a dialog box, and you can type in any question you want. Now, if you don't want me to use your first name, all you have to do is put confidential or anonymous before you type in your question, and I won't use your first name. I use the first name just because I think it personalizes the conversation a little bit. Let's see, I see no hands being raised. Let me go down, and I do see some questions. How do you know if a recruiter will help you or not? I think that the best thing you could do is point blank ask them, do I have the credentials you normally place? Do you feel I'm somebody that you can market to your clients? Do I feel somebody, do you feel I'm somebody, that's a third party recruiter. And if it's a corporate recruiter, I would ask them, how do I compare with other candidates that you're considering for your hiring authorities? Do I have the type of experience that your company hires? So, recruiters are not used to getting direct questions. The recruiters are pretty direct themselves. And so they appreciate direct questions. So if you want to know if they're going to be able to help you or not, just ask them, and they'll be able to give you a pretty good idea. How often is too often to call a recruiter? Had an interview 9 weeks ago, and it's been crickets. Do I call? Do I email? or do I give up? If it's been 9 weeks, that's not a good sign unless the job was put on hold for a reason and they haven't filled it yet. When you're interviewing, the best thing any of you can do is always ask the person that interviewed you, what is the next step? When should I call you back? You always want to set up that follow-up appointment. And when you're saying, what is the next step? I'm very interested. You're showing that level of interest by asking them when the next step is. And so that makes you look good to them. So you want to do that. But when you're asking about the next step, you want to make sure that they understand it's because you're confident in that. But if it's been 9 weeks and you haven't heard anything, I would reach out to the person and just say, I would love to offer you some additional information, regarding the job that I applied for. And when you offer additional information and you're reaching out to them, they will let you know if the job is still open or not. But that is not a good sign. Time kills deals. It's like anything else. If something goes much longer than expected, now that's not to say that a company may have been interviewing for a position and all of a sudden a big project hit the company and now the hire is on the back burner. And here you've been told they're going to make a decision in 2 weeks. It's a month later. You haven't heard anything. That doesn't necessarily mean it's not going to happen. Normally it does, but things do happen at companies. Think about your own life. When you've decided to do something and all of a sudden something happened and made you go in a total different direction. That happens to hiring authorities too. Okay, this is confidential. I'm tired of filling out applications with recruiters and want them to work off my resume, refusing to do their paperwork. Is that a good decision? No, it's not, because you're coming across as difficult to work with, and all your resume shows a person is who you were and who you are. It doesn't show them at all who you want to be. And a resume doesn't show your salary history. A resume doesn't show, your necessarily all your accomplishments in that. So is it wise for you to fill out paperwork? I know it's time consuming, but it's some of the best time you're going to spend is filling out application forms accurately, because many people see my resume and they're automatically disqualified. That application form can make or break your ability to book an interview with a hiring authority. So yes, I know it's redundant and it's repetitious, but that's part of the job search process. Successful people that find a job do things other people don't want to do. You can stay with see my resume. I'm not going to fill out your application form. But if I've got somebody who filled it out and didn't say a thing, and I've got somebody that says, here's my resume, I'm not filling out your form, who do you think I'm going to be more excited about? I'm going to be more excited about the person that filled out the paperwork, because now I know who they want to be. Now I've got all this, and when recruiters are representing somebody, they have to provide these hiring authorities with detailed information. So the more detail you give a recruiter, the more apt they are to represent you. They want to know how do you set apart from everybody else that they're sending. So, no, you can't see my resume, and you can't say I'm not filling out an application form. I feel most recruiters are recent grads that don't have a clue on how to place somebody of my quality and expertise. They don't even understand terminology on my resume. How do I get directly to the hiring authorities? Unfortunately, sometimes you just can't. And you're right. A lot of corporate recruiters, a lot of the initial screeners are recent grads, but they're not hiring authorities. They can't hire you, but they can screen you out. They've got a list of credentials they're looking for. And if that's part of the hiring process, then you've got to go along with it. I don't care if you like them or not, if you're 4 times older than them or not, they still have the job. And their job is to screen in or screen out. And the nicer you are to them and the more you treat them with respect and the more you let them talk about themselves, the better your chances of getting past them. You've got to figure out what's most important to every person in that hiring process. In fact, that's a great question to ask. Can you tell me what's most important to you and the person that's going to be hired? And find out what's most important to them. And then you know where to stress your interview. But it doesn't make any difference how old they are. And there's a lot of young recruiters that are in corporate recruiting positions or in third-party recruiting positions that are doing phenomenal. They're running circles around people with 2 or 3 times their experience. So don't judge a book by its cover, because you don't want to be judged by your level of experience or expertise or age, or you don't want any of that to enter your somebody judging you, so you don't want to judge somebody else based on their age. Don't equate young with not qualified. And are some of them, you know, unqualified, and are some of them unable to understand your credentials? Probably, but they can screen you out. You want to be screened in. So, you basically have to give them information where they think you're going to make them look good. All right, I see no more questions on the bottom. Let me see if anybody else raised a hand. Let's see if I see no hands being raised because the another question popped up. Let me go down below. Let's see here. After unemployment of more than 6 months, I accepted a job which will be $12,000 paying job than my last job, so it's $12,000 less. It is not my need or dream job. I don't know if this is a wise decision or not, but I was tired with the job search. What do you think about? Please share your thoughts and experience for such type of situation. It will be helpful. I think you have to do what you have to do. And if you've been out of work for 6 months, you've got to think about all the money you're losing every single week you're not employed. And there's many people that are taking jobs when they're underemployed. That doesn't mean you're stopping your job search. And when you're out there and you're working, you'll have more connections. You will meet with more people. And you can explain that you took this job in the interim until you could find a job that more fit your credentials. And when you have that current experience on your resume, you're more marketable. A lot of people won't interview somebody that doesn't show current experience on their resume. So I think you made a wise move. And I don't know what you were earning before, but how long does it take you to earn $12,000? A month, 2 months, and you could be unemployed that time. And how long would you have to work to make up the difference? So at least you've got money coming in. And the beautiful part, that's why I always suggest people do temp work and contract work. When you're out there working, you hear about jobs. When you're sitting at home behind a computer, you don't. So, however you can get out there, whether it's temp, contract, internships, underemployed, it helps you to get out there because now you're going to learn of other opportunities. And there's some ridiculous statistic that I just read the other day that it's something like, 50% of the people that accept a job are keeping their options open within 6 months after accepting a job. So it's not like anybody is planning to work at a company the rest of their life. So, if you're underemployed, you just keep your feelers out there and you'll hear more because you're out there working. So congratulations on the job. I know it's not the money you want, but at least you're employed now and you'll make some great connections and hopefully in the not too distant future get an offer that is more conducive to, your expertise. Okay, that's the only question. We've got 30 more minutes, job seekers, and this is free career consulting. So if any of you have any other questions, remember you can ask them one of two ways. You can either go to the attendee list and click on that hand, and I can unmute your lines and you and I can talk. Okay, Charmaine, I see your hand up. Okay, Charmaine, you're unmuted. What is your question? Charmaine, are you there? I've unmuted your line. Charmaine, are you there? I've unmuted you. Charmaine, and the last name starts with an M, MC. Okay, let me unmute you. I think you might have hit that hand by mistake. Okay, I see no hands. Let me give you all a couple more minutes. I'm more than willing to stay on this phone and help you in any way that I can, but you would need to ask questions. Okay, I'm getting a confidential question now, so I have to wait till this person types it in. In the meantime, if you'd like to ask me a question, again, you could do it one of two ways. Go to the attendee list and click on that hand and I could talk with you, or you can type in the question. So the person that put the word confidential, I need you to type in your question. So hopefully she will type in her question soon. Let's see if there's any hands. Remember, anytime you get an objection you can't overcome, write it down. Anytime you get screened out and don't understand, write down the scenario. Like you can bring specific scenarios to these calls. Nobody knows you on this phone. And I'll be more than glad to advise you on how to do, things and not have the same negative things happen again. Okay, the person that wrote in the question, let's see, I found a job several months ago and the job didn't work out. How can I describe what I've been doing? The first thing you need to do is you need to have somebody call the company and check a reference on you and see what they said. And when you said the job didn't work out, you could explain that you took an interim position while you were looking for a job, and you realized that wasn't a good thing to do because it wasn't the type of job that you were looking for. So you made the decision to conduct a job search full time. Now, if you were fired from a position and they're saying you were fired, you have to let people know that it just didn't work out, that you took a job that had nothing to do with what you were doing. And so you are no longer there. You're not going to use the word terminated or fired. And you want to focus on your job search full time, and you're looking for a long-term commitment. Most companies won't say they fired you. Most companies give dates of employment and starting salary. So you've got to know what they're saying, and your answer to that question has to go along with what the company is saying when they're called. So have a family, a friend, somebody call, the company and check a reference on you just to see what they're saying. And also ask them the question, are you eligible for rehire? Because sometimes they'll give dates of employment and money. But if you ask if you're eligible for rehire, sometimes they'll get into, no, this person was terminated, we'd never hire him back again. So you definitely want your reference check to ask that question at the end. Is this person eligible for rehire? Because that really does, that's the time when if they're going to say something negative, they'll usually say it then. Okay, I see no more questions. So unfortunately, we're going to end this call early. What I would suggest all of you do the coming week, write down questions, write down what's going on, with you, because I love to answer questions. I love to give you free career consulting when you're on these lines. And so think about, what you would, what advice do you need? What help do you need? Bring that to these calls. If you haven't finished the steps in the career portal, please log back into the career portal. If you don't know how to get back into the career portal, go to support@careersupportnetwork.com. If you're not booking interviews, it could be your resume. Get your resume reviewed in the career portal. There's all kinds of resources in there. So, please use the resources that we're offering you. Please sign up for these weekly calls because we want to do nothing more than to help you find a job. We care about each and every one of you on these phone lines. And again, that information in the career portal was written by people that find people jobs. And so the techniques and everything we've got in that 15-step process, those that prepare, search, and connect, and interview, everything in those 3 phases shows you exactly what to do to get a job. So I hope you spend some time in our career portal in the coming week. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for joining me.